Hey everybody, welcome to the webinar. My name is Matt Heyman, marketing manager at Refract.ai. Joined by Stuart, Richard, Mark, all on the call. We're getting people signing in right now, which is fantastic. So great to see everybody. In the chat, just pop in where you're calling in from, where you're dialing in from, whereabouts in the world you are today. Be keen to find out a bit more about who you are, where you work, and whereabouts you're calling in from. So I'm gonna hand over to the guys whilst I try and deal with all the chat stuff that comes in.
Yeah, maybe we can get some feedback on how much longer and disheveled we look this week versus last week we were this last week. I look like, I can't remember the last time that my hair was this long, put it that way.
No, I was just about to say that. I think not getting a haircut before lockdown might be one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made.
Yeah, this is the problem. Me and Matt don't have this issue.
No, just a set of clippers, easy.
Well, I think I'm going to take some clippers to it tonight.
There you go.
If I went to get like a 2 all over, is there like, do the clippers just have 2 written on them?
No. Yeah, pretty well. The
number 2 is as short as the gourmet, so you just want to take like the full guard. That's number 2.
Oh, I don't want to do that.
That's definitely right. Definitely do that.
The next door neighbour's a hairdresser. I don't know if she could do it over the fence or something.
Maybe. So Ollie, Dynatrace, Molly, SDR, E4 Enable, in the garden in Preston. Nice to see you. Welcome. We got Vic in Reading, working for Convolt. Thanks for the webinar. Looking forward to it. Excellent. Glad you're here. As people join us, let us know where you're dialing in from, company that you work for, and were you on the last webinar? Did you try out any of the tips that the guys shared last week on the webinar? If so, pop those in the chat as well. We're keen to find out how people implemented what we covered last time. Christina from Spain, welcome. David from Norwich. Who else have we got here? Jacob from the Northeast. Christina says, let me out soon. I hope that's coronavirus related.
Yeah, maybe let me out of this webinar soon.
We haven't even started yet.
You could just exit, but yeah. Welcome, Christine. Nice to have you. Lucia from London. We've got people from Leeds, Essex, Pitney Bowes. Rob, nice to see you.
Go on, Essex.
There we go, representing Essex. Who else have we got? Martin MacArthur. Oh, nice to see you, Martin. Welcome to the webinar.
Martin. Good lad. Martin's in the house.
Excellent. Judd from Alfred. So just whilst we're getting ready, guys, we're keen off the back of last time to welcome anybody onto the call who wants to join for particular tips, tricks, or troubleshoot, problem solve, brainstorm, whatever you want to call it with these guys. There's a chance they might be able to help you. So if you want to, jump in the Q&A. So what I'd suggest is in the Q&A of Zoom, just reach out to me. I'm going to be very much in the background this time around, dealing with all the Q&A. So if you want to come on the call, you've got particular problems or challenges that you're facing that relate to sales. So jump on the call. We'll see if we can get you on live and troubleshoot with you. So reach out to me in the Q&A. I'm going to try and do that, and I'm going to just sign off for a second whilst I answer a few Q&A things.
I've got a little challenge for people on this webinar. I want everyone to post on LinkedIn that you're here watching the webinar with Refract. And then I want you to post again at the end of the webinar to let everyone know the best thing that you learned on today's webinar. So we want to kind of just really get an idea of some of the best things. And we've got some amazing feedback last week. Some of the messages I've been getting on LinkedIn is someone tried out a reactivation email technique last week that saw something incredible, like 20 responses of 40 that someone sent out. And one sales team told me that their entire sales team used some of our pattern interrupts in their cold calls last week and had booked a load of meetings, more success than they've ever had before. We want to hear those. We want to hear those stories. We want to hear post on LinkedIn. We'll like it. We'll share it. Connect with us on LinkedIn. Stuart Taylor, Mark Ackers, Matt Heyman, Richard Smith. We'll like and share your posts about us, and also telling us what you have learned about from this webinar too. So, and as Matt said, if we've got a chance today, we'd like to bring one of you who was in the webinar today onto the webcam if you're brave enough to ask us a specific question live, and it gives you the chance to tell everybody on here what it is that you do, and a chance to plug your company too.
One thing from me as well, everybody please feel free to ask questions and pick our brains, but we haven't got all the answers. So if any of you have got, decent tips that you use that works, please share, because, we're learning as well. Everybody else in this webinar can learn together. So we certainly haven't got all the answers, but we'll give you our best guess. But if you've got any ideas or any things that work for you, then please share those as well, so we can all learn from each other.
Yeah. So that's right. It was someone just posted there that it was It was Chris. He said that was me. 22 out of 35 reactivation emails he sent out, he got a response from. Amazing stuff.
Awesome. Looking forward to my commission on that, Chris.
In the post.
Yeah, I'll just echo that really, Rich. You know, if you can, just put something on LinkedIn, tag us all, connect with us. It was overwhelming, the feedback we had last time. LinkedIn blew up for all of us, but that's why we're here again this week, and would love to keep doing this if the interest and desire is there. So tag away. We do see and read everything. We engage, and it's all about building that network and community for all of us together, so we can all learn as a team.
Sure. Right. Okay. Well, we've hit officially 3:00, so I'm gonna kick things off here. I'm just gonna share my screen. So, welcome everybody from around the world today. A big chunk of you have turned back up again this week, which suggests that you listened to something of what we said last week, which is always positive. Why are we doing this? We're doing these webinars because we want to help everyone. We want to help people drive more pipeline, more conversations, have more success when selling just became a little bit tougher. Which let's face it, the past 2 weeks it has. Even here at Refract, where we're experiencing no doubt some of the same challenges that you guys are going through. So this is us just wanting to help people out who are no doubt working from home, isolated, cut off, sharing some of the stuff that works for us, and hopefully helps you guys really take something very actionable and put it into practice. This isn't just hypothetical stuff. We're sharing real stuff that you can use today, tomorrow, that will hopefully generate some good results. So I've been to loads of webinars in my time where I sit and I read all this content, watch all these slides, and I kind of think, yeah, but are you actually really doing this stuff yourself? Hopefully what we're demonstrating here is actually real content, real examples, and we're going to do some of that today. Just a very, very quick agenda. We're going to be doing some breakdowns of elevator pitches. So we're really focusing on the bit after the cold call, where you've done your call, your kind of the first 10 seconds. You're going into telling the person who you are and why you called. And we've actually had some very brave volunteers record their pitch as if they were on a cold call. And we're going to play a couple of examples down and break those down. So well done for those of you who've recorded those and submitted them. We're going to be sharing some real example cold calls. We're going to be showing you how we position and our strategy around pitching and Refract, playing some real recorded conversations for you to listen to. We're then going to do Objection of the Week, which now sounds a bit like this.
Objection of the Week.
You've really done it.
Don't want to know how long it took me to find out how to do that. And we're going to be breaking down an objection. We're going to be talking about increasing showing up rates to your meetings. We're going to be focusing on follow-ups and emails, how to have more impactful, relevant, meaningful follow-ups to emails. We're going to be looking at alternative ways to sign off emails that you're sending out. And then finally, we're going to make a nice offer to you, kind folks today. Okay. So let's get into it.
We just lost Callum. Callum's leaving after that clip.
All right,
Callum.
Sorry, Callum.
It's not the webinar for you, Callum. See you later.
Yeah. Callum, I'm tempted to join you, mate.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll just cold call Callum after this. No worries. Right, okay. Elevator pitch breakdown. So I asked you the question to send in, if you were brave enough, how you, in that part of the cold call, when it comes to telling the prospect who you are, what you do, why you called. And what we're going to do is we're going to play a couple of examples from the people who've sent these in. We're going to break them down as a team, and then we're going to hopefully give you some feedback. So the first one that we've got is Scott Finden. Scott Finden is from Reach Desk. Check those out. Reach Desk, great guys that we know based out of London. So what we're going to do is I'm going to play Scott's elevator pitch. And then Mark and Stu are going to break this down and give some feedback afterwards. So here it goes.
Reach Desk enables B2B sales and marketers to incorporate a physical element into their outreach efforts. It's anything from handwritten notes, e-gift cards, branded swag and cupcakes, but it's all sent and tracked from within your CRM. And what that means is you're able to be timely with your follow-up, which is essential with this concept, but also able to measure the ROI of any given campaign straight back into the CRM. In a world of digital saturation, it's an amazing way to cut through the noise.
Okie doke. Right. So, Stu, why don't you kick us off here? What were your thoughts on on Scott's elevator pitch, that part of the cold call where he's telling the prospect why he's called.
So fair play, Scott, first and foremost, for putting yourself forward. And I thought your pace, tone, delivery, everything's spot on, mate. I thought you'd done a really good job. As for the content of what you said itself, I would turn it on its head. And the most interesting thing for me was what you said at the end, was, in a digitally saturated world, it's a way for you to cut through the noise. Now, I know what Reach Desk do. The guys are doing a great job, and they enable you to put physical things in part of your sales cadence, so you can, send gifts and handwritten letters and whatnot. So it's a really good tool, but I am probably a target for Reach Desk. And the problem I have is I can't get in touch with ideal customers as much as I would like. They're getting tons and thousands of emails. They're getting a lot of calls. It's a way for you to get in touch with those difficult prospects. I guess that's the problem you solve, and I'd be leading with that. It is digitally saturated. It's hard to get in touch with your ideal customer. I'd be leading with that, Scott, as your first opening gambit. You've got to bear in mind, you've got seconds to get somebody interested. So lead with the best bit first, and that's a problem that you solve.
Mark, how would you kind of take what Scott did, and how would you potentially enhance that?
Yeah, so I agree with Stu. I think just listening to that, I wasn't familiar with the brand. First 15 seconds, I was a little confused. The last 15 seconds started to make sense to me. I started to understand what the problems were that you solved, and I pieced it together. So I wrote down some notes here. The things that stood out for me were cut through the noise, but measure return on investment on the campaign. And I think that's something that marketers do struggle with, monitoring return on investment of their spend unless it's digitally tracked. I would have been positioning myself as asking a couple of questions, asking if that resonates with them. So Stu, do you ever struggle to get hold of your ideal customers? Are you finding that their inboxes are flooded, their mailboxes are full, and you've got no way of getting hold of the people that you need to speak with? Or Stuart, I speak with people in your role all the time, and they're often telling me that they wish they could get hold of their ideal customers, and they've got no way of doing that. Or if they are sending out merchandise, they've got no way of tracking it. Does that resonate with you? And then start talking about your product afterwards. But you've got it the right way. You've got the right elements, just the wrong way around, in my opinion.
Here's a really nice little tactic for anybody on the webinar when you're thinking about your elevator pitch. Is think about starting your elevator pitch with the words "Have you ever?" Because what leads on from that is, have you ever experienced this problem? So in Scott's example, Mr. Prospect, have you ever got frustrated that that so many of your ideal prospects, their inbox is just full of emails, and your sales team's emails are just becoming part of the noise, and it's really hurting your pipeline? He hasn't had to mention his product yet, but he's just posing that problem that he knows that he solves right out of the gates to that prospect. That's the first thing the prospect's hearing. It's making the prospect think about the problem. So have you ever is a really nice thing. I'd just like everybody to think of that. Have you ever? Then talk about the problem that that your customers are facing.
Somebody said to me ages ago, when you go for the elevator pitch, rather than, if somebody says, "What do you do?" rather than answering that about what you do, say how you help. And I think that's a really powerful tip anybody can take away. And we've done this ourselves. If you go to an exhibition, hopefully they're back in full swing shortly, you go around an exhibition, you just see, "Oh, what do you guys do?" People just vomit what they do, rather than actually telling people how they help and what problems they solve. And if you can change that little bit, it'll help you stand out amongst the crowd.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Again, Scott, well done for putting yourself out there, sending that in, and hopefully that was really valuable. Now we're going to listen to Mark Walsh. So Mark is from a company called Red Marker. So here's Mark's his elevator pitch. So again, this is he's started the cold call, and he's got to the bit where he's going to tell the prospect the reason why he called, and this is Mark's response. Again, thank you very much, Mark, for sending this in.
My name is Mark Walsh, and I'm the UK and European Business Manager for Red Marker. I'm giving you a call today as I'd like to learn more about your current marketing advertising review process and schedule a demonstration of our software. Red Marker is an AI advertising compliance platform. We're able to review all of your marketing collateral, including websites, and identify any risk or non-compliance within such. The entire platform is based upon your own bespoke rules, meaning you identify the risks that you want to find. The platform allows for increases in efficiency, productivity, and accuracy of review.
Okay, so there's Mark's elevator pitch. Mark, do you want to start us off with what you thought overall about Mark's pitch?
Yeah, I was just making some notes there. Look, Mark, again, credit for putting yourself forward so we can all learn. I found the opening a little strange in the sense of that you led with your job title. Then you told them that you want to learn more about them and schedule a demo. I think that's quite a lot to ask of someone off the bat. If I put myself in the shoes of the person you've just called, they've answered the phone, they might not know who you are, they may have never heard of your business, and you're saying who you are, your job title. I know it's important to you, but it doesn't matter to them. You talk about your company, they won't know who that is. And then you're saying you want to schedule a demo. That feels really heavy for someone to take on board. When I was trying to listen out for what your company does and the problems it solves, it sounds really valuable. It sounds like you review collateral automatically, identify potential risks. Risks are what give people anxiety. Risks are what keep people up at night. I would be asking them, and I would assume that people that you're going to be speaking to have got stuff in place for risk. So I'd use the phrase "and yet." And let me put that into an example. I'd be talking about, I speak with people like yourself all the time. They've got fantastic risk processes in place, and yet they're always looking for additional ways to ensure they're covered. I appreciate I'm not going to be able to pitch that as well as you, but the key point there is giving them the confidence that you already speak to people that have this in place, and then play on that anxiety of the problems that you solve, and really just drop out what you want, who you are, and why you're calling at that point. And again, just focus on the problems.
Again, Mark, I think if you think about some great examples there of Mark just saying, and yet, it's just a really nice kind of lead on to the problems. But even taking the tactic that I shared before is the start of that call of saying, have you ever got concerned that your advertising collateral that you're putting out there is potentially open for risks or non-compliance, and you're just worried that around every corner there's a big fine or penalty? You could just pose that problem, getting the prospect to think of that problem. All you need to do is get them to say, yeah, I do think about that. You haven't had to mention your product. You haven't had to talk about AI and platforms. You're just talking about starting with a question, a problem, and then that's all you're looking to do is bring the prospect in. Stuart, anything to add on to that?
Yeah, the holy grail for that, Rich, for me, is when you lead with that and you get a prospect interested, one of the common things they'll say is, how do you do that? That's often what we hear. And that for me is, like ring the bell. That's I've got them hooked, I've got them interested. And then that's easy from there. You've got them interested. You then say, well, let's schedule some time so I can share exactly how we do it. But you're dead right. I think, again, Mark's challenge could probably be turned on its head. He mentioned the risk thing right at the end. The truth is, Mark, your prospects have probably stopped listening way before then. I don't mean that disrespectfully, but nobody cares what your job title is. Nobody cares about your company. You've got to make it about your prospect and make it about them. Lead with the problems that you solve. Tell them how you solve them and see if they're interested in finding out a little bit more.
Mark's going to come on to a really interesting kind of thought process involving a well-known computer game character very soon. But the other thing I just want to talk about with Mark's pitch, which I think we're all guilty of sometimes, is just using too much jargon. You've got to remember that in this specific example, you've cold called someone who doesn't know who you are, doesn't know what your company does, has never heard of your product before. Their attention is probably elsewhere in that little space of time. And you've got to get them to be truly tuned into what you do. And as soon as you start using words like AI and platform and compliance, all that stuff is just going over people's heads. It's like me if I cold call someone and said, "Oh, hey, I'm Rich from Refract. We provide artificial intelligence fueled conversational intelligence technology." It's kind of like doesn't make any sense in that immediate window. And so another thing I just think about is really just almost think of elevator pitches as trying to make it almost in child language. Like make it sound as if like a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old could understand what it is that you're selling. And don't be afraid of doing that, because it's often when you break it down like that, it's the thing that's going to make more sense to the prospect in that moment. So like in the Refract example, I would say, have you ever got frustrated that you've
Stop there, Rich. Why didn't I play some real examples?
Well, there you go. What much better, play some real examples. On that basis, I will shut up and I'll hand over to Mark.
Okay, cool. Right, let me share my screen. So, can we all see that? Looking for some sort of confirmation. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's play how we open up our cold calls. This is one of mine. I'll play it. I'll play the first minute. I'll take my headphones.
Hello, this is Hans. Hans, good morning. My name is Mark Akers. I'm calling from a company called Refract. Hans, we've not spoken before, but from one sales professional to another, can I take 35 seconds to explain why I'm calling?
30 seconds is good, yeah.
Okay, great. So, Hans, I landed on your LinkedIn profile. Given that it seems to me like you're responsible for a sales team, I wanted to see if this resonated with you. So I spend my time working with successful sales leaders, and yet, despite their success, they do grapple with a couple of challenges. One is that it takes new hires too long to hit targets consistently, and the other is when they look at their team today, most success is coming from a disproportionate number of people. That's their top performers, and they struggle to replicate that across the team. Do either of those two things resonate with you at all in your world?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Is there one in particular?
I'll stop it there because I'm going to play another clip. But thoughts on that, gentlemen?
I think from the outset, you can see that Mark, firstly, hasn't mentioned Refract and the tool and all the features and all the AI and all of the jargon. He spoke and opened with the problems that we know resonates with sales leaders like Hans that he's speaking to in this instance. And he's led with problems and he's got Hans to agree. So really at this point, Mark's done all the hard work. Now the easy bit's done. The hard work's done. The easy bit now is just to close them down and set the next steps.
I've seen one of the comments that was made in the chat about love the word resonates. And I do too. And the reason why is Mark is not saying, Hans, do you have this problem, Hans? Is this the biggest problem in your world? Because if he said that, the likelihood is Hans is going to say no. He's going to be resistant to it. All Mark is asking is, does any of this just sound remotely familiar in your world? Which, in this case, Hans has said, yeah, it does. We don't know how big this problem is. We don't know if he's that motivated to solve it yet. But it is him that he said, yes, this does sound familiar. From this point, Mark can obviously quantify how big that problem is. But just asking, does that resonate? Does this sound familiar? It's such a light touch way of getting someone to give you a positive response. And again, key here is, Mark didn't ever mention Refract as a product in that elevator pitch, but he's got the prospect engaged in a conversation.
And this is key as well. Nobody's going to buy your product in a cold call. Well, it might if it's a very low touch product that you're selling, but they're certainly not going to buy Refract. It's about getting next steps. That's the aim of the call. He's just trying to see if there's a potential interest here, if it's something we can potentially talk about. And Mark's done that, generated the interest. And then the next call is about really digging deeper and finding out, like Rich said, how big a problem this is to Hans.
Yeah.
I think the other thing, because I'm conscious of time here, guys, I want to play another clip, but do you notice how I said, and yet? Again, I said, speak with really successful sales leaders that have got high-performing teams, and yet. Not but or because, it's and yet, just that little transition to there could still be a problem here. I'm going to play another clip, though, and this is yours now, Rich, because we do very similar. So someone's asking to play the call again, so we can play Richard's, which is similar. But Rich goes on to ask an additional question, which I think is really powerful.
Mark, can I just jump in? Sorry, before you jump into that, we've had a couple of people ask the same question in private chats and through the chat. What happens if they turn around and say it doesn't resonate? Neither of those do resonate with me.
I'll answer this because so there's. I'll tell you first of all a tactic to use in that situation.
Yeah.
If they say no, is I'll say, all right, you're one of the guys who's got a crack. Then how do you tackle those issues? What I'm doing there is I'm getting them to give me some explanation as to how they are solving those issues. And if I get them talking, what that's going to do is it might lead to them revealing that actually they don't have a good solution. That they just said that as a kind of a whiplash-based response, but actually, I'm going to try and pick holes in the kind of how they're solving that problem. But the other key thing I want to just mention here is that this person may not have this problem that we solve, and that's fine. Let's move on and find people who do. Or they may have a problem, but it might not be that big. They may not be that motivated to solve it. I'll give you a great example is, the last car I had, my car radio was just not working very well. I could get literally 2 radio stations out of a possible 20. But guess what? I didn't actually listen to the radio that much. I wasn't that bothered. One of the radio stations was okay. I wasn't that motivated to go out and buy a new radio and wasn't motivated to buy a new aerial. It wasn't the biggest problem in the world. And the point I'm making here is that ultimately, not every person that we speak to is in the market to buy what we're looking to sell. Doesn't have the problems that we solve, and that's absolutely fine. Like this approach helps you figure out who you should be spending time with and who you shouldn't quicker.
A subtle thing you can change in the language as well, and we've actually implemented this and it's worked quite well. When you ask what the problems are, don't say, are you facing any of these challenges? Simply change it to which one of these challenges are you bumping into more? And presume that they have that challenge. That subtle change in language makes a massive difference, because people are more inclined to just go along with you and think, actually, that's more of an issue than that one is. But that subtle which is a challenge, kind of you're guessing that they have the challenge, and most people go along and tell you about it.
Yeah, that's really, really good point there, guys. So everyone can do this now. Just start to think of what's the two main problems that you solve, and start putting them at the front of your cold calling. And as I said, I'm going to play this clip. So in my call, I said, we've got these two key challenges. Does that resonate with you? He said, yes, both. I asked if there's one more particular than the other, which I think worked really well. But listen to how Rich does it. Rich goes one step further and asks an additional question that I think we should all start using.
Hello, this is Kathy. How may I help you?
Oh, hey, Kathy. This is Rich calling from Refract. I appreciate it's Monday morning and you've probably got things to be getting on with, but can you give me 35 seconds to explain what I've called today?
Sure.
Appreciate that, Kathy. Kathy, I noticed that you run inside sales there at MicroBuild. I just want to share a couple of key challenges we've been solving for the inside sales leaders recently, and just want to see if either of these sound even remotely familiar in your world. The first one is that they know that they're losing deals in the sales calls that their guys are having every day, but the problem they're facing is that they don't have the capacity or time to be able to listen in on all of those calls, so it's very hard for them to find out where those deals are slipping. Others tell me that they typically have 2 or 3 real top performers who have better conversions, deliver better results consistently. They know those guys do things differently in their sales calls, but they don't have any way to really share what those guys do differently in their sales conversations to others on the team. Do either of those sound familiar in your world, Kathy?
Yes, they do.
And of those two, kind of having that visibility into sales calls at scale, or just sharing what your top guys do differently, which of those particularly stands out to you the most?
I would say they do differently for the most part.
Okay.
So far, this is really good. But this next bit here, this is the key question that I think works really well. We've asked about the two problems. We've asked what one's the biggest problem, but then listen to this question.
Can you give me an example of where you've been facing that recently?
Definitely. Every day. We have a couple.
Goes in to explain that she's having these problems every single day, and it really resonates with her. We know, without even listening to the rest of this call, we know Rich books a meeting.
Yeah, and I think the key there is I've just got her to pick a challenge, to give an example, make it real in her world, get her really thinking about it. And again, as of yet, 2 minutes 45 into that call, I'm yet to mention Refract the product. But I've got this person, this prospect, to talk about a problem I know they solve, and I've got her engaged in a conversation. Just to move on, Mark, I don't know that I referenced this before, but maybe here's a framework that, or a kind of a thought process that people can use when they're thinking about maybe just reshaping their elevator pitch. And this is all about a well-known computer game character.
Yeah, just quickly in the comments, has everyone here heard of Super Mario? Just put a yes in the comments if you have. I asked that because I did this on stage a couple of months ago and everyone looked to me like they'd never heard of Super Mario. So let's have a quick look here. Everyone's saying, yeah, fantastic, we're safe, lads. If not, I was going to have to go with Pac-Man. Okay, so when we're playing Super Mario, we've got this flower. I want everyone to imagine this flower is the product that you sell. We all know that Mario gets his flower in the game and what it does. I want you in the comments to write, if you were to sell this flower to Mario, how would you describe it? Just real short, snappy. What would you say this flower is going to help Mario do? Wow, a lot of Marios. Okay, we've got firepower from Josh. Would you like to be bigger? Would you like to be more powerful? Get rid of Corona. Okay, so a lot of people are saying, like, power up, similar to the mushroom, get bigger, get stronger, fireball. And that is what the flower does. That is what it makes him bigger, stronger. The music changes. He fires fireballs. A couple of people have given the answer that I think we should be giving, and that is really think about what Mario's trying to achieve. He's not trying to get bigger and stronger. He's trying quite simply to complete the level and save the princess. That's how you need to position your product. You need to think of the end game. What is Mario ultimately trying to achieve?
Yeah,
that's how you need to be talking about your product, and you need to do that at the very start of your conversations.
So here's what I'd be doing if I was cold calling Mario. I'd say, hey Mario, I speak with other computer game characters, and they're frustrated that time and time again they get defeated by Bowser, and they never get to rescue Princess Peach. Does that ever sound familiar in your world? I haven't actually mentioned the flower. I haven't actually mentioned the fireball. But I am talking about taking down Bowser the dragon.
He's not a dragon,
He's
is he?
definitely not a dragon.
What?
He's a turtle, isn't he?
Give over.
Bowser's a turtle.
I've never seen a turtle with spikes on his back. I tell you that.
He's like that little Pokemon.
I've never seen an Italian plumber.
I've never seen a plumber eating mushrooms.
Does anyone know what Bowser is? In the
What
comments,
is Bowser?
fine. He's a turtle.
No.
Alex has got it right. Yeah, he's definitely a turtle.
I don't know. Definite turtle. I stand corrected. He's a dinosaur. Yeah, we're getting closer, Andy. Getting closer.
Right, okay. I think we've done this bit to death, but save the princess, complete the level.
Right, okay, we're going to move on to Objection of the Week.
Objection of the Week.
Sorry, you're going to love that.
At least I is you, Rich.
Objection
I wonder if that lad's still here.
I hope so. Right, Objection of the Week this week. A classic one that no doubt we'll have heard lots before. We'll hear lots again in the future. Send me some information. Send me some information. Something we all get hit with, probably maybe now more than usual. Let's start, Stu. Why don't we start by talking about why do we think we get this objection in the first place?
I think it's one of two things. Firstly, it's probably down to us again. We haven't done a good enough job of explaining what we do. If we go back to some of the earlier pitches, the prospect might be genuinely confused and not really understand what you do or why you're calling, which again is on us. Because we haven't done a good job of leading with problems and explaining exactly what we do. I think it's probably the first thing and the most common. But often, as well as we mentioned last week, like objections are not always genuine. It's often just a case of the prospect trying to get off the phone and trying to get rid of you, which is fair enough, and that's something that they often do. That said, it's quite a comfortable one genuinely to handle. I think there's a few different tips that we can start to use, which can help overcome this pretty quickly.
Yeah, Mark, I know we're going to start playing some real examples of these from real calls. Mark, what's your take on your experience with this objection?
Yeah, so I mean, as Stu said, sometimes it's just a genuine objection, and you can hear that. You can hear you've caught them in the car, they're out and about. That's a real concern that they haven't got the time. But ultimately, when I hear send me some information, I feel like I've not done a good enough job. I feel like I've confused them. Maybe I've pitched too much jargon. This happened to me just the other week, actually. Called a sales trainer, give the pitch, and I knew I went into pitch mode. I didn't story tell. I don't really know what happened. I just lost the plot slightly, and I got that. It sounds interesting. Can you send me some information? And I actually took a step back and I said, look, I'll be honest with you, Jessica. When I hear that often means I've not done a good enough job. I don't feel like I have. I'm happy to send you some information over, but what is it you want to see that I can't just explain to you over the next 2 minutes on the phone? And I think when you hear genuine requests for certain bits and bobs, I think that tells they're a little bit engaged. But when you hear what I heard was just some general information, I feel like, they want to take control away from me. They want to read it in their own time, if at all. And I said, look, okay, I'm going to send you some information. I'm going to do a better job articulating it on email than what I did just now. Would it be fair for us to schedule in a call beyond the email coming through so we can really discuss your thoughts? And I just got hit back with the slap of, you're trying to talk to a sales trainer, Mark, I know what you're doing. I'll get in touch with you.
And back in your box.
I was like, okay. And that's the reality. But rather than me talk through, why don't I play some examples? I've gone into Refract. I've dug out some examples through Call Radar.
Whilst Mark's loading that up, I used to be guilty when I started in sales. Whenever I got asked to send some information, I used to get dead happy and excited. And, oh, yeah, I'll send you some information. What's your email address? And send some brochures and some big, long emails.
Showing your age now, Rich.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, it's a blow-off. Those emails will never get read. So I guess the tactic here is how can we best deal with that? And Mark's going to play some examples here.
Yeah, so I don't know if Nia's joined us today, but Nia's one of our SDRs, absolutely fantastic at her job. This is a call from quite a while ago. So Nia's been with the business, I don't know, Stu, you look after Nia maybe 3 years or so. She's made a call here in this situation. This is one of her early calls. They say, send over this information. What Nia says back isn't what she would say today, but this is what she said then, and this is what most salespeople say at this point. I'm just going to play it for you.
I'd rather prefer that you rather email me the information, that I can look over it, and if I think it's something that will be of use, then I could rather schedule something for a different time.
That's absolutely fine. I'll do that for you.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Oh, you can hear the despair and defeat in her voice.
Yeah. End of call. What odds do you reckon for Daniel reading that email and replying to Nia?
I think Mark nailed it, 0.
Yeah. As much chance as I have of buying a tin of beans from the supermarket on the next week.
So as I say, that is what a lot of salespeople do, particularly SDRs. You know, let's remember they've got an incredibly hard job, SDRs, and most of them, this is their first taste of sales. They're brand new to the world, and they feel like they've got to answer that and really just comply. Let's fast forward. We spend every Friday morning group coaching, individual coaching during the week, and this is an objection that I think our team are really good at handling. Let me play a couple of calls now where Nia's had the same objection, and let's see how she handles it now.
And I'm really happy to send you over some information. We have a partner page that I think that would be relevant to you. But since we're on the phone now, I just wondered if we could get 10 minutes just to share a little bit about each other's businesses and see if there's an initial fit there.
I'll be honest with you, I'm literally flat out. I'm working from home today and I'm trying to get through all this stuff, so I'm not in the right headspace for it.
Yeah, totally understand. Would next week be better for you?
I'll tell you what, I literally, I will tell you what, I am flat out until, would you believe,
I'll stop it there. Bubbly bum. Stop it there. The key bit that I think from Nia, though, is if you heard it, was next week I'm flat out. And before she went to talk, and Nia just went, how about the week after? Just literally shoved that in, and that worked. Before you guys just pull that apart, listen to Nia again. Rich, you might recognise this call. This is a call that you've clearly coached. So send some information. I'll just press play here.
Okay, well, I'll send over some relevant information. When would be best to catch up? Have you got 10 minutes maybe next week?
Next week is better. Probably on a Tuesday is the best time.
Okay, would the afternoon work for you?
Yes, before.
Bubbly bum. Come. Again, like lads, I think it's really clear. You can hear the difference in Nia, how confident she is. Both are different ways of getting the same answer. Both agree, going to send over some information, but she then still goes on to book in their next call, and that's all she needs to achieve.
Yeah. Stu, I know that you've got a funny little tactic that you say might for your fellow follically challenged people on the webinar today.
Yeah. So being bold has its advantages at times, and it's something that I use to my advantage whenever I can. It's a bit of a superpower. So if somebody says to me, send me some information, what I'll typically do is I can send you some information absolutely 6'4" and bold. Where should I send them? And it's just humour, like we discussed before. If you can get somebody laughing, then it works. And that works quite well to break down that objection. But the truth of it is, I never send information. I see it as a brush off, and I'll be really honest with people as well. I'll say, look, in my experience, people say they want to send me some information because they're trying to get me off the call. They're not that interested. Is that true, or is there a genuine reason why you want me to send some information? And most people are like, yeah, Stu, you're probably right. And then they'll normally either hear me out, or they'll just say, look, it's not a good time, ring me back. And you just get to the truth of the real objection.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, so we're going to move on from we're going to move on from that part of the webinar, which was
Objection of the week.
And we're going to move on to the next bit, which is around increasing show-up rates to meetings. Just going to take a little pause there. Again, really want anybody to post on LinkedIn, tag us as individuals, tag Refract, tell something that you've learned from the session today. It's great to hear when things that we're teaching is valuable, and anything new tactics or techniques or things that you want to be putting into practice. Post it on LinkedIn. We'll like it. We'll share it. We'll be great to see that engagement.
If you are tagging stuff on LinkedIn, the bit around the objection of the week sound clip, that's all Rich. That's all Rich.
100%.
That's not us.
That was my hard work that did that. So I've got no problem with that at all. Right. Okay. So we're going to move on to a bit around increasing show-up rates to meetings. I don't know about you, but past couple of weeks, probably more people cancelling meetings and not showing up to boot meetings. My guest, hashtag objection of the week, absolutely. The club is growing.
Mike, don't encourage him.
So we're getting a lot of meetings cancelled. People's worlds have been turned upside down. So maybe we're seeing a lot more of this. Meetings that we've booked or calls that we've booked, people just not showing up for those appointments anymore. But what can we do to really reduce the amount of times people are actually cancelling on us? People are not showing up to meetings. Stu, why don't you start off here before we kind of talk about some great tactics and tips that people can use. Why do you feel, what are the main reasons people decide not to show up for the meetings that we book?
I'll give you two main reasons straight off the bat, which I think are two of the easiest things to solve as well. One, we haven't done a good enough job of getting them excited about the next step in the conversation, whatever that might be. We haven't articulated what's in it for them, so they've got no reason to want to take that call. We might have shoehorned that call in. There hasn't been a genuine reason. They've taken that meeting to get you off the phone, which is one, definitely. The other one, which I think we're guilty of as well, is the time between next steps. Like, I think a lot of salespeople, you heard it in Nia's call there, a lot of salespeople will say, oh, brilliant, let's have a conversation next week. Where next week's come from, I've no idea, but why next week? Why not this afternoon? Why not tomorrow?
Well, let's just look at that. Like, why do you think, as salespeople, we book meetings for the week after or the week after next?
I think it's that fear of failure. Like, I think people realize or think it's easier to get something scheduled in the calendar for 5 days' time rather than it is tomorrow. And I think people are reluctant to try and get something in tomorrow because they appreciate that they might fail and they might not get that booked in tomorrow. And as salespeople, we take the easy option and just say, yeah, what about next week or the week after when your calendar's probably free, rather than pushing for something more immediate.
I think golden rule in sales is that time kills deals, time kills sales.
I agree. Like, if you think about it, right, when you speak to someone on a cold call, you've created interest and excitement enough for them to say yes. Their excitement is as high as it's ever going to be before the discovery call or demo. Every day, every hour beyond your call to that next one, the excitement just goes down and down and down and down. Time kills deals. Get it in as soon as possible. Stu, why don't we role play it out? Why don't I be the prospect? You be you. Let's imagine I've said yes. We will have a call. Let's play it out. So I go, yeah, Stu, that sounds great. Let's have a call.
Awesome. How are you fixed tomorrow at 10 o'clock?
Tomorrow's quite tight, actually, Stu. I tell you what, how about we do this 2 weeks' time today, this time?
2 weeks, wow. Yeah, understood. Any reason why 2 weeks more? It just seems like we've had a really good conversation. I'm excited to share some things with you. 2 weeks' time's a big gap.
Yeah, I'll just be honest, just tomorrow's really busy, and I just looked at my calendar. I know I'm definitely free in 2 weeks' time.
Understood. What about Monday morning? We've got Monday morning and Monday afternoon free.
Yeah, I mean, how long do we need?
Yeah, 30 minutes should do it.
Yeah, I could do Monday, maybe 11:30.
11:30 works for me.
Yeah.
So what I just observed there is the key thing that Stu did there is, first of all, he kind of sounded a bit like disappointing, a little bit challenging in the sense of, ooh, that's a long way out. We've just had a good conversation. He's kind of almost testing the prospect to see, hang on, is this a conversation that you're serious about? And then the other thing is that he's actually asked the prospect, why 2 weeks' time? And ultimately, the only reason why the prospect said 2 weeks' time is they've gone on their calendar, they've clicked 2 weeks out where they can see almost a fresh slate of openings. And Stu's just actually navigated that person back to a much closer date, to a Monday morning. There was no real genuine reason why the prospect had said 2 weeks' time. It was just an easier option for them to look at that blank, that blank sheet of available time slots.
I'll give everyone another quick tip here as well. So John, one of our SDRs, he actually put this on LinkedIn. It's one of his little tricks. He finds asking for 10 minutes just before lunch works really well. He would literally just go, how about 10 minutes before 12 o'clock tomorrow or the day after? For some reason, that works really well. What a lot of salespeople do, I don't know if you guys would agree with this, 3 o'clock seems to be the most popular time. Just 3 o'clock in the afternoon is when most people seem to ask for. But try that. Try 10 minutes just before lunch. It seems to be working for our guys.
Yeah, see Jacob on the chat, sorry, Stu, has just said one thing that he does is he actually gets the calendar invite sent over while the prospect's on the phone, and he reckons 3 out of 10 prospects will actually take the demo right there and then, and it was much better demos. So that's really interesting. There's almost have you got half an hour now for us to do that? So that's an interesting approach.
That definitely is. The other thing I was going to say as well with regards to that, if you do find that a prospect's really reluctant, it's probably a sign that they're not that bought in. And I'm concerned that that's not that particularly good an opportunity. And just be frank. And again, you can be really brutally honest with prospects and just say, look, in my experience, if there's no time in the next 3 weeks, it seems something that's not really high on your agenda. Is that fair?
And what about the handover process? Because a lot of you on here are SDRs or your account executives that work with SDRs. And I often see one of the reasons that there's a no-show rate to meetings is because that handover process is just not good enough, to be frank. Mark, why don't you talk about how that handover process can be improved while you've got the prospects still on the phone?
Yeah, so handovers are tricky for SDRs for a few reasons. One, the people you're speaking with might not appreciate that you're an SDR. They might not appreciate that you're brand new to the world of sales, maybe been doing it a year or two, and that you want to put them in the hands of a BDM, an AE, whatever you want to call them. So you've got to tell them. You've got to tell them what's going to happen and explain it to them. And when people understand, they understand and they're comfortable with it. Where we see drop-offs is when they don't realise they've been passed over. They don't like that they've been passed over. It feels like a bigger commitment being passed over to someone else. It starts to feel like this is going to be a real sales conversation we're having now. So think of it like, when you scoop up some water and you pass it to the AE, you need to plug as many gaps as possible. So one of the best ways to do that is to tell them what's going to happen. Let me again play an example of a call where we actually tell the prospect what is going to happen. So I'll just share my screen again. So we're going back to Nia. I hope Nia is listening. So the key thing that Nia does here is she tells them that she's going to include her colleague, which Rich is you in this example. Let's play and then let's break it down.
Invitation for 8:30 Central on the 20th. And I'd also like to include my colleague Rich, because he's actually worked with most of our Sandler partners, so he'd be best placed to share the platform and how they're currently using that. Is that okay?
So just to break down what Nia's done there, she's
going to hand it over. But actually, Rich, she's put you on a bit of a pedestal. She's almost made it like this is a coup. You're going to get Rich. Rich is best placed to have this conversation. And she even just drops in familiarity. He's actually dealt with loads of people just like you in your industry. And is that okay? Why would he not say okay to that? He feels like he's getting an upgrade. And I think that's something that all SDRs can do, is just show a bit of intuition, make out that, I've secured a good AE for you, someone that's really experienced, someone's going to be able to help, and even just play on that. Look, I'm really new to this. I want to introduce you to an AE who's much better placed to have this conversation. And that just completely smooths that transition. But we've got a few other tips as well, because that's the big piece. But I know, Rich, you would have followed what we do at Refract. Once Nia passed that meeting to you, why don't you tell everyone the next couple of steps that we take just to really cement that handover?
Yeah, I'll just immediately drop, in this case, Dan an email, just introduce myself, just saying I'm looking forward to the conversation. Okay, it's just an email, but I'm building familiarity with Dan. And then I'm going online and I'm actually connecting with him on LinkedIn at the same time. And I'm putting a post as to specifically why I'm really looking forward to talking to him, my experience of speaking with similar profiles of person to himself. And I guess that's key. He gets to become more familiar with me. He gets to look at my LinkedIn profile. We're going to do a webinar maybe next week. We're going to focus on the importance of optimizing your LinkedIn profile to get people to just to learn more about how you can help them. but that's kind of that building familiarity is really key. The next bit we want to talk about in this process is actually about, in my opinion, a bit of an unspoken piece, which is the actual calendar invite that gets sent. And I can see that Jacob is going to come on here after I've done this bit to tell people about his experience of doing the demo there and then. So if you bear with me 2 moments, Jacob will get you on. So the calendar invite, I don't know about you, but when I've been sold to by salespeople and I get a calendar invite in my receiving from them, they're so dull. It's like demo of product and then just a link to a Zoom room, and that's it. And I just think, like, if I'm a prospect and I'm seeing that invite a week or two later, I'm thinking, how on earth am I even? What was this conversation even about that I had 2 weeks ago? Demo. I don't want a demo right now. It lacks so much context. So I just think we need to start to revamp. And these are just quick wins. The calendar invite. I'm going to share you an example of one that we've done, which I think really, it's not perfect, but I think really goes a long way to showing you what you can do. So this is a real calendar invite that we've taken. I'm just going to.
While you're loading that up, Rich, how often do people just get calendar invites where it's just the Zoom details? Like really
all the time.
Lazy, and you just forget, don't you? You just see Zoom details. It's just so off-putting. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to share.
Yesterday I had an email invite. I was really excited about the conversation, but when I didn't know who it was. I had to Google his email address to remind us who it was.
Most people won't do that.
Yeah, no, probably not. But I was worried it was an internal meeting or something that I was when I Googled, I was like, oh, what is this?
First thing to note here is the subject line. Is Refract Intro Call helping you win online? That's the subject line of this calendar invite. Imagine how much that stands out to demo of this product or demo of that product or meeting with this person. The reason why this is so effective is the context of this meeting was speaking with a sales training organization who are basically a lot of their face-to-face work is being shelved right now, and they're having to find new ways of helping their customers online. They're having to deliver their services online. So this is just a subtle reminder of the objective here, of the challenge that this prospect had admitted that they had when this meeting was booked. So that's the first thing that's so key. And I think we often that's just a quick win. How can you enhance your subject lines to talk about, again, the problems that you solve? Secondly, you look at the body of the email here. And the thing that I particularly like about the body of the email, is that, again, the purpose of this conversation is being elaborated on, is to share some ideas about how other sales trainers are using technology to shift their services online, lengthen the engagements with their clients. And I just think, again, it just serves a reminder as to the prospect of getting them to remember why they took this meeting in the first place. It's amazing how many people aren't reinforcing what they are doing, how they're helping prospects in the actual calendar invites that they're sending. It's amazing when you start doing this. It's amazing how low the amount of no-shows actually starts, how that number starts to reduce.
We've got Keith on the chat asking, with your invites, is that for a Zoom meeting? Because I know Zoom automatically pre-populates with, are you setting up a meeting in your calendar and then going back and changing it to a Zoom? How do you do it? Practically speaking,
Zoom, Matt, you can see that, make it a Zoom.
Yeah.
And we just put the Zoom link in. So it would be, as mentioned, look forward to speaking with you. When the time comes, please follow this link to meet me online. Yeah. And then it will be the Zoom invite. The rest of the format would stay very much the same. We'd just give a Zoom invite rather than a mobile number to call.
I clean Zoom invites up as well.
I do. I just take the actual link and put it in there. Click here. And then the Zoom link. You don't need all the rest. I sometimes paste it below the name, so it's below if they need anything, but I clean it up and just put the link to the Zoom that they need.
I agree. Some other things I really like about this, and I think all SDR should be doing this straight away, is including the phone number that you're going to call on. As an SDR, if you do that, it helps the AE out, because the AE or the BDM might be out on the road. They might not be able to find that phone number. So include a number that you want to call. If it's for you, it's an easy reminder for yourself as well. But it also just gives the prospect visibility of the number you're going to call. And you know what? It doesn't happen often, but sometimes people do just reply and say that's the wrong number, or actually I'm working from home today. Can you call me on this number? So include the number is really, really good. The only two things that I would do that I personally think could improve this is I would remove the thank you. The thank you for finding time, because the way I see this, two people are investing time into this conversation. We don't need to thank them for time. They've agreed to take this call. So I'll drop the thank you, and I would just include one subtle line of, please accept this calendar invite as confirmation. Sorry?
I think that's in there.
It is. I take it back. I stand corrected, said the man in the orthopedic shoes.
Right. So, so I think we're going to get Jacob on because he's going to talk.
Let's get Jacob on.
I'm really interested to hear from Jacob.
Jacob, you ready to go? You're looking decent. Let's go.
You're dressed.
Yeah, I've asked him to confirm it. That's why his webcam's off. Oh, no, there he is.
There he is.
Welcome, Jacob. You're on mute at the moment. Let me just unmute you. There you go. Welcome.
Hi, guys. All right.
Yes. So Jacob, I'm really interested to hear your approach of doing demos there and then on the spot, and how how those end up working out for you.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, a bit about we as a company, we build mobile apps for recruitment companies in particular. So kind of once we've gone through the general pitch and kind of generated the interest there, it'd be kind of the case of, hi, Mark, have you got a laptop in front of you at the moment? But brilliant. Well, what I'd like to do is, my colleague Andrea, she's free at the moment. If I transfer you through to her, she'll actually be able to show you a demo of the app and how that would be of help to yourselves, and then just transfer them through.
Brilliant. And what success rate do you have of people who are open to having the demo there and then versus those that aren't?
Yeah, obviously some people say it's not convenient, but then it kind of the chances of you booking it for tomorrow or the day after closer is a lot stronger than weeks in advance, which is obviously really good. And obviously if they do accept it and do it right there and then the interest is there, and often it's a much better call.
Jacob, can I play devil's advocate? Because I'm not sure that fits comfortably with me doing the demo right there and then. I'll tell you why, because I want to know the answer. How do you guys go about giving a demo that's specific for that person, really goes into where's going to be the biggest value for them without doing a harbour tour? Like if you've not had a conversation to understand their needs, how do you tailor that demo?
Yeah, of course. So this is obviously my job is the SDR, so I'd pass it on to one of the account execs. And generally, you're looking at a 30, 45-minute call. So they start by kind of going into, obviously, about the company and kind of the main issues that they've got at the moment. And we kind of offer a product that's 90% there, and we'll bespoke it to them. So the main kind of issues that we come across is particularly in the temporary field. So obviously the likes of timesheets, getting them on time, payroll, dealing with bookings. These are kind of the main problems that they're coming across. So they're often the ones that are exposed at the start of the call. And then we're able to kind of tailor it to them. And then from there, if more personalized things need building or more bespoke work, we'd be able to set up the next call from there to kind of do that and introduce more people, I guess.
Awesome.
Okay.
Cool. I think that's a really good idea, mate. We'll definitely try that, because we've already said time fills deals. If we can get the demo in the same day, or even discovery call, it doesn't matter whether it's a demo or discovery call, whatever it is, just about getting that next step immediately. I really like it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, even some of them, when they realise that because half the time we just go, we'll pass you over right now and transfer them, so don't give them much time to say yes or no. But at least they're getting introduced to that account exec, and then usually, if they don't have the time there, the account exec will be able to kind of open up a bit more and get an understanding of what their particular need is, and then schedule a more further detailed demo from there. So there's definitely a win-win really.
Yeah, I can certainly see how that would work for discovery calls. Like, pass it straight over. Let's have the call now. I remain to be convinced about going straight into a demo, but really glad you joined us, Jacob. Shame we're not on the big wall today like we were last week. But thanks for coming on, mate.
Yes, Jacob.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Nice to meet you, man.
And if you're a recruitment company looking for an app, contact Jacob.
Guys, cheers, Jacob. We've had lots of people in the chat now. No worries. We've had lots of people in the chat now. Asking about coronavirus. Obviously, that's the thing that is on a lot of people's heads, a lot of people's minds. They want to know what should we do. Give us a quick tour of some of your thoughts about people getting responses like call us back in a few months. We don't want to deal with this now. Like, let's just go through maybe one by one. Give us some tips, some thoughts to people who are in that situation right now.
Yeah, I'll start. So that is a real objection that people are going to have. It's going to be front of mind. Doesn't mean you can't have a conversation. Doesn't mean you can't share some ideas. If you can't be selling in this time, you need to be building pipeline. Like this will end. And when you come out of that, you want to have a full pipeline of opportunities. So I think we need to embrace it. I think we need to show empathy and understand. But that doesn't mean we can't have a conversation where we're just simply sharing some ideas. It's not a sales call. No one's expecting you to buy. It's just sharing some ideas to see what's possible. And some products right now are going to be helping you in this period.
Yeah,
I think empathy is the number one. We're obviously all aware of this situation, which is terrible, and we've got to do our best to get together. But Mark's dead right as well. If you were helping people before the coronavirus, you can arguably help them more now. If you have a genuine product that helps people and adds value, then you can help them more now. We've been able to help sales trainers actually keep their businesses alive because they can do it digitally and remotely now with Refract. So it's been a massive game changer. And it's about telling that story. I totally understand why you think that. I know the situation's hard at the moment. We're all in the same boat together. There's no big decisions at the moment. I simply want to share a couple of ideas with you how we can potentially help. And if we can, great. If we can't, we can part as friends.
Yeah, it's a little bit like a more extreme example of, we don't, where when we've got a halt on spend right now, something along those lines. It's a more extreme example of that. I think I can't add too much more on than what the boys have already said. I think ultimately it's when you get that objection, it's like it's an understanding and why you've got it, but then ask them the question. Just curious, how are you? I tell you from a Refract example. If I had it, say, we just we just got too much on with COVID-19 right now. So I totally understand. Yeah, it's a crazy time right now, a lot of uncertainty. But I've got a question for you. How are you trying to tackle the challenge that with every sales conversation that needs to count right now, that your salespeople are executing on those calls every single time? And I'm getting them to think more about the problem again. I'm not asking them to buy and spend the money now. I appreciate the sales cycle may be longer naturally, but this is about getting them engaged in the conversation, getting their attention, and not just using it as a kind of a snapshot thing to say, just to kind of end the conversation.
I'm just going to jump in here, boys, because I'm conscious of time. And Russell Hopes raised a really good point. He says in the chats that businesses are depending on sales now more than ever. And the reality is that the sales professionals were having less conversations. So we need to be making the very most of these conversation opportunities. This webinar isn't about promoting Refract. It is about helping everyone get a little better. But given it's 4 minutes before the end of our stated time, we are right that businesses are depending on sales more than ever. I think, Rich, we should just cover how we're trying to help businesses in this difficult time.
Yeah. So we last week we decided to do something unprecedented for people on the webinar, which was if you go to the link on the bottom of the slide, this offer is still open because we thought, actually for the rest of this month it makes sense to do this. We use our technology to really help us become better on our calls. We today have spent, and the questions from the audience today have all been about how do you handle this? What would you do in this situation? What does good sound like? Like this is what we need to do to increase our chances of success, particularly right now. And so we use our own technology to capture those conversations, to be able to analyze what works, what doesn't, share with the team the moments of conversations that work better than others. And so we've got this unique offer where we're giving away basically a 6-month license, but you actually get the first 3 months of that completely free. You just need to go on the website and book a demo for that. And again, we are spending more time than ever listening to calls, talking about conversations, talking about tactics, objections, how we handle them as a sales team than we ever have right now, because it is challenging. It's not easy out there, and a lot of the stuff that we're sharing on the webinar today is through our own experiences of testing different things, seeing what works, what doesn't. The only way we've been able to do that is by analyzing our own calls and finding the stuff that works better than others.
And people might not realize, if you've got sales teams that are remote, working from home, within our platform, they can make recorded calls for you to be able to review and ensure they're making the most of every conversation. It works with every phone, home phones, desk phone, mobile phone. So it's worth just being aware that we are helping businesses in this difficult time. We had loads more to cover, didn't we, guys? There's loads we haven't got through today.
Yeah, I mean, for those who are staying on, I appreciate people are having to jump off. What we're going to do is we're going to end with a couple of email techniques that we've been using, particularly around follow-ups. So for those of you who want to stay on, who want to learn how to do more effective follow-ups, we can cover this off in the next sort of 10 minutes. In particular, I get asked a lot of questions about what can I send as better follow-up emails. And I think we can all be doing better follow-up emails. There's too many people who send follow-up emails, which are ultimately the same message they sent first time round, but in, you know, they're basically just sending the same message again. And how do we increase our chances of getting responses to follow up? So, Stu, I don't know whether you want to talk about a particular tactic, an email that you have used to good success, and why you think that works so well.
Yeah, I will definitely. And this is all about like trying to give you tips that you can take away. And again, you've probably noticed that we are quite big fans of having concise emails that get to the point. This is the first email for everybody that can see the screen that I sent to a chap called Neil. And sent the email, put loads of personalization in, give him a ring, left a voicemail, but he didn't answer. So I put him into our sales cadence. And the second email, the inspiration comes from Sam Nelson at Outreach. So it's part of his cadence that he shares. And it's still our best performing follow-up email, but it's so simple. And it's 2 words, any thoughts, is the follow-up email. And that gets us a 24% reply rate, which is a really, really strong reply rate. We've tried hundreds of different things to try and increase that, but 24% is still the best response we've had. It's really simple, it's really easy, and it just, as long as your first email is a really solid, good email, that's when it seems to get the most success. If it's a pretty slack, poor first email, then it's not as successful. But if you write a good email using that any thoughts, like I say, you can probably expect about a 24% reply rate, which is what we get at the moment.
Yeah. What's key there, I say as well, Stu, is you still being able to personalize that email. You're referencing maybe obviously this guy supports Swansea City. You're talking about a game that took place this weekend. I can see how that little bit of personalization on top of that really short, snappy question just goes that bit further to increase the chances of this guy responding.
It's really easy to do that as well, because I set this follow-up the day after Swansea have played. So I quickly just look at the fixture list, see when Swansea are next playing, and I'll set the follow-up to go out the day after that game. So I can put, whatever it may be or whatever that may be. This one's probably not the case. Decent point at the weekend, so probably setting it a later date. But you can see, what did you think of the game last night in your follow-up? And then it's a little bit of personalisation that you can put in the cadence automatically as well.
Awesome. And I just want to touch upon this tactic. So I have to credit Josh Braun for this one. I think oftentimes when we follow up, we're following up asking for people's time. The follow up is just asking again for the meeting. When sometimes people aren't ready to buy your stuff just yet. So here's a really nice idea, and again, something that anybody in this webinar could do, could make real in their world. And what this is I basically decided to interview people who my target audience would want to hear from. So I sell to people in sales. So what I did is I got in touch with people who had high profiles, big influencers in the sales community. And I asked them if I could have 15 minutes where I did a quick Zoom interview with them. I asked them the same 5 questions each. And the 5 questions were all about sales conversations. Again, it's specific to Refract, but I want to get these guys talking about the importance of sales conversations. So what I did is I did these interviews, and then I took those 50-minute interviews and I just broke each one down into mini videos. I just cut them down where each question represented a different video. And what I do now is I just incorporate those mini videos into follow-up emails that I send to prospects who aren't ready to buy just yet, with the objective of staying relevant and staying front of mind. So you can see on this here, I said, Jim, interviewing some experts recently, thought you may be interested in hearing from Matt Wanty. Matt Wanty, for what it's worth, is a guy who teaches people to be better on the phone. Here's what he had to say about what he sees the top reps doing in their sales calls. And there's a little video there that they can play and listen. And again, it reinforces the importance of good sales conversations. But again, I'm not asking Jim in this case for time on the phone. I'm not pitching Refract to him. And he's just getting one of these every 2 weeks in his inbox. It's highly valuable. That I see a lot of people actually watching these videos that I send. And ultimately, I'm front of mind so that when Jim is more interested and ready to buy, when my email drops in his inbox, he's going to be like, okay, I'm ready to get in touch with Rich now. And I think I encourage everybody to do that. Get in touch with people that your target audience would want to hear from and conduct short interviews with them. And it's great content for putting in your email follow-ups. And then, Mark, finally, I know that you want to talk about different ways that you can sign off on emails. So we'll move on to that.
Yeah, I'll keep this brief, conscious of everyone's time, and grateful that everyone's still with us. But when you get an email, the first thing people are going to look at is the first sentence and the last sentence. And the last sentence is where everyone's asking for time. Time is a precious resource. It's finite. You can't buy more of it. And people are just asking for time constantly. And it gets a bit arduous. I mean, let's look back at that scenario challenge, the video that we saw from one of the guys, I think it was Mark, who put himself forward, fair play to him. But first thing he said was, I want to schedule a demo with you. He's asking for time straight away. The reality is the whole purpose of an initial cold email is to get a reply. Doesn't matter what the outcome is, doesn't matter if it's yes or a no, but you want to get a reply. And there's different ways you can ask for time without actually asking for it, without sounding like a salesperson. And here's just some examples here. Some of my favorites, when you talk about problems, I'm curious about, are you curious about how we do that? Do the problems mentioned above sound like things that you're bumping into? Do the problems that I've mentioned sound familiar? The things that I like the most are asking, does this sound like something we can talk about? But also position it of, would you be open to me sharing a few ideas that might not be on your radar around how you can solve these problems? And that just doesn't feel as salesy. It doesn't feel like you're asking for such a big commitment. You're simply looking for a yes or a no. And if there's a yes, just when can we have that call?
Yeah, I think in sales, in emails, we're constantly asking people for time. A meeting, when are you free? 10 o'clock tomorrow. And I think people are just getting a bit tired of that, quite frankly, when ultimately all you're doing here is you're just posing a question. When you ask a question, you're looking for a response. The response is the thing that's going to lead to the meeting regardless. So here's some, take the examples on screen. Start using these as alternative ways to sign off your cold emails. That isn't just asking for people's time. And it's amazing. Since I've done this again, I've had huge success. My success rate of getting meetings actually increased by finishing emails this way, because I think as much as anything, it's different. And part of the challenge in sales is actually just being a little bit different.
Guys, we've got Ewan on the line. I'm gonna just bring him in as a panelist. Ewan's got a very interesting scenario here. He's working in insurance, but I think the issues that he's raised in chat are going to be relevant to a lot of people. So Ewan, if you're on the call, I'm going to promote you to a panelist. You should be able to join. If there's an issue, or maybe he doesn't accept the invite, then I'll read out. Oh, here he is. Perfect. So yeah, Ewan, you're now on the call. You're now on the webinar. You're muted at the moment. Let me just unmute you there. 1 second. Let's see if we can get you on the call, because I think this idea of being fixed with the current provider is really key. So Ewan, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. Fire away.
So basically, our major objection that we get all day, every day, is that we're phoning companies to try and get them just to speak to us about their insurance, and they'll be saying, you know what, we're happy with who we're with. They might even not be tremendously happy, but they're like, it's fine where it is. And once they've said that, they're basically closed. And all we really want to do is, there are loads of good reasons why you should speak to somebody else about your insurance that we can tell them, but to be quite frank, we can't even get to that stage because they've literally closed down by saying, we're fine with who we're with, we're happy, that's it. If we could even just open them back up to then even listen to what the benefits might be, that'd be a massive bonus.
Can I jump in here? Because I wrote a LinkedIn post about this. Very, very different industry, but very same proposition. Everyone familiar, like you know, when you walk through like a shopping centre, there's a couple of guys on like a Sky booth. Are you familiar with what I mean?
Yeah.
So everyone's happy. They've got Sky, they've got Virgin or whatever. First rep said to me, have you got Sky? And I just said, no. And he was like, oh, and that was it. And that was the end of the conversation. Very abrupt. I was like, I'm with Virgin, I'm happy. And I walked on. I walked past half hour later and his other colleague said to me, are you getting a good deal with your current provider? That stopped me in my tracks because I didn't know the answer. I didn't know I was getting a good deal. So I hope that story brings life. But I would ask the question in this scenario of how about, I totally hear what you're saying, appreciate you're happy. How about I'll give you a quote just to keep those guys honest?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you know what? To be quite fair, that's something that we kind of have tried. We've tried, wouldn't you like to at least test the market, make sure you're getting the best out there? And I suppose there is an argument. I know you did say it earlier in the webinar, to be fair, which was some people just aren't in the market. But actually, in this case, kind of everybody sort of is. If they just wouldn't close down, we could open them back up again. Literally, we could do much better numbers than what we're doing. That one's to be absolutely fair, that's kind of where we're going, and that's the best we come up with. But I feel like somewhere out there there's maybe there isn't, but I feel like there probably is something that could take it up a notch, if you know what I mean.
Here's my thoughts, Ewan. I think ultimately everybody's immediate reaction is, I'm good right now. Oh, I'm good with what I've got. That's everyone's immediate snap judgment.
True.
The key thing is to take them away from that snap judgment, because that's kind of the thing that's almost just rolls off the tongue. I'm good right now. We're okay. Mm-hmm. It's the easiest thing in the world for them to say.
Yeah.
So I always think the way to combat that is to ask them a question that just makes them go, oh. And it's just to kind of almost, before they've said it, just stop on their way and just give it even 2 seconds of thought. Like, and then Mike says, have you ever been concerned that the rates the rates that you're getting right now are just not where they should be? It's a different type of question. You're not saying we provide better quotes or we can provide a better quote and saying where they should be right now. It's like where they should be. That's interesting. Where they should be. I've never really thought about that. What is should? And it's just that kind of framing a question that way just gets them to stop and think for literally a few seconds to say, I'm not too sure. And as soon as you get someone who kind of gives that almost slightly puzzled answer, there's your open.
Another thing I would maybe try, Ewan, and this is again from my experience, is try and tell them a little bit of a story. Like, come across as the expert, I appreciate that everybody's got a current provider and they're normally happy with them. I spoke with such and such, they were exactly the same last week, but they didn't know it was out there until they found out. Give me 10 minutes if I can't share why changing to us is a no-brainer, then I'll bow out gracefully.
Yeah.
Something like that, just trying to make them aware, because a lot of people, like Rich said, they're not aware that there's better out there until they find out.
No, you're right. And to be fair, in both those cases you just said there, to be absolutely fair, it's not something they've got an immediate answer to. So they're right. You know what? I'll definitely try those. I think that might help, because at the moment I'm saying things that they already have. Here's my standard answer to. They just chuck it out and then that's it, closed down. But if I can say something slightly different and get hopefully a slightly different response. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Cheers, Ewan.
Anytime.
Cheers.
Just gonna throw in there, lads. Like why Ewan? I know Ewan's leaving, but do you reckon a bit of the Sandler there? Of do you think would it be completely ridiculous of me to suggest that I could get you a better deal, or would it be completely crazy for me to suggest that you might be overpaying?
Just something to take them out that thought pattern, like Rich said, because it is. Even the other objections we looked at, it's the classic thing. If somebody rings me, I had it the other day about my mobile phone, and I wasn't a contract, so it was irrelevant. I was like, I'm covered, I'm sorted, I'm in my contract. It's just a throwaway line like you do. Yeah, keep it on again.
Yeah.
Right, I think we came to the end of the time. Again, I would love for people to, post about, what they've learned today. Put in the chat anything that you'd like us to cover next week. One of some of the things that we're looking to dive into next week is, again, talking about how to create. Talk more about what you can do on your social profiles, how you can really optimize your LinkedIn profiles in particular to get people to become more aware of of how you can help them, but also how to create conversations socially, how to take conversations from LinkedIn onto the phone, and some great tactics there. I think also maybe touch upon some of the language, some of the words and phrases that we use that can make a huge lot of difference in the conversations that we're having. So again, give us a shout out. Be great to see you on next week's. We'll be sending that invite round, and again, great to have everyone with us, and see you all next week.
Really appreciate your time, everyone. Hopefully
Cheers, guys. Recording should be available tomorrow. So everybody, you should be able to get a copy of the recording tomorrow. So thanks for coming on.
See you next week.
Callum stuck around for the full thing.
Patron of the week.